Hey guys, welcome back to another edition of Old Man Shouting at Clouds. I'm your host, Dad. What are we going to talk about today? Today, we are going to talk about a little thing called fortitude. What is fortitude? Fortitude is defined as courage in pain or adversity. What does that mean? Well, a big chunk of life is adversity of one kind or another, right? So what is adversity? Challenges, roadblocks that get put in your way, difficulties, things you have to overcome. That's adversity. So maintaining courage, maintaining strength in moments when things are not going to plan. And why is that so important? Because a whole lot of things are going to go wrong in life. Big, small, medium-sized, all kinds of things will go differently than you planned. It might be a test that you've studied really hard for, and then when you get into the classroom, the test is different than you were expecting, and they didn't ask you all kinds of questions you didn't prepare for, and they didn't ask you any of the questions you did prepare for. How do you bounce back from that? You go to a sporting event that you've been training really hard for, and you think you're going to have a great game, and you don't. You have a terrible game. How do you bounce back from that? One of the people you thought was one of your best friends goes behind your back and does something that really hurts you. How do you bounce back from that? You get a little bit older, and the problems only get more challenging, right? So let's say you've been working really hard at your job and you're doing really well and your boss is recognizing you. And then all of a sudden, the economy tanks. Now you're laid off. You didn't do anything wrong. It just didn't work for you. So what do? How do you bounce back? Life is going to throw those curveballs at you all the time. And so fortitude is one of the most important traits I think a person can develop, is just being able to take life's punches, even if they knock you down to the canvas, get back up and keep fighting. Because the more times you're able to pick yourself up, the better the chance that in the end you're going to succeed, right? So I don't know if somebody famous said it or where I heard it, but one of the sayings that I've kind of glommed onto in life is your success in life is going to be determined by your ability to pick yourself up off the mat one more time than life knocks you down. And I can't think of a better way to say it than that, because you will get knocked down for sure. You're going to get knocked down a lot of times. And if you get really good at picking yourself up, dusting yourself off, and refusing to quit, you're going to succeed more often than not, because a lot of people in life don't develop fortitude. You probably know a lot of people already that don't have much. I certainly do. Anything goes wrong in their life and they just kind of roll over and die. That's going to limit your success in anything, whether it's sports, whether it's school, whether it's your job, if it's your relationships. I mean, I know an awful lot of people that in relationships, when they're dating somebody, one little thing goes wrong, all of a sudden they're not sure they want to date this person anymore. It's like, well, look, man, you never in a million years, you will never meet anybody who doesn't drive you nuts sometimes. Even your best friends, your family members, for sure, but your spouse too. That person's going to drive you nuts sometimes, and you have to be able to weather the storm, suck it up, dust yourself off, and deal with it, and then come back tomorrow refreshed, ready to do it all over again. And if you can develop that, you're going to succeed at pretty much everything you do. Maybe not immediately. It might take some time, but you've got time. So don't be in a rush. Don't think that success needs to come immediately, because it won't. I can promise you it takes time for most of us. I mean, unless you're just so insanely talented at something that You, which by the way, that can actually be detrimental to be super, super talented at something, because then you just get so used to winning that when somebody comes along who's actually better than you and knocks you off your perch, you have no idea how to react to it. Fortunately, that was not a problem I had. I got used to losing at a very early age because I was small for my age. I wasn't overly athletic, so I certainly wasn't athletic enough to make up for the size I didn't have. Um, so I had to figure out how to keep coming back and how to work harder than everybody else. Okay, I don't have more talent than them, but I will outwork them. And surprise, surprise, I got farther in sports, in the sport I chose, I should say, than some of the people who were more talented than me. I mean, there was a guy on my team in high school who, coming in, all anybody wanted to talk about was how good this guy was. He ended up dropping off the team, and I made it to state. So sometimes it's just being able to pick yourself off the mat one more time than you get knocked down. But yeah, like my life so far has been littered with failures of all sizes. I'll give you a few examples because I think it's good to know. You know, when you're a kid and you see your parents, you think we have everything figured out, and maybe you think we've always had things figured out. That is not the case. The reason we tell you about mistakes you're making is because we made the exact same ones, and we know how it worked out, and we're trying to help you avoid it, or at least figure out how to deal with it. One big example I have, there were a few in high school. So my freshman year of high school, I was on the soccer team and the swimming team. And both coaches kind of were in my ear saying, hey, you probably should give up your other sport, because if you really want to be good at this sport, you got to dedicate to it. Because I was somewhat talented, but I wasn't talented enough to just get by on that. I was going to have to work at it if I wanted to be good at either sport. And I thought I was more naturally gifted at swimming, so I went that route. And freshman year, all I had in my ear was my sister saying, oh, it's so easy to make it to state in swimming. You know, you'll show up and just be better than most people. Well, it might have been true for her, but it sure wasn't true for me. I didn't take it super seriously. I worked just hard enough. And sure enough, JV invite comes along. That's my last meet. Didn't make it to conference, didn't make it to sectionals, definitely didn't make it to state. I'm done. Season's over. And that was a pretty hard blow, because all I had been hearing about is, oh, it's not, you should be able to make it no problem. Didn't work out that way. And it bothered me so much that I spent the whole off season then training and swimming. I joined a team, trained the whole rest of the year, didn't play soccer the next year, just trained in swimming. Guess what happened sophomore year? Made it to state. But the failure in freshman year is what lit the fire under me. I wasn't willing to work that hard freshman year. I didn't think I needed to, so I took it easy. Well, once I was willing to work, okay, things started to fall into place. But if I had just given up after getting knocked off the team after JV invite, I never would have made it to state, that's for sure. As far as school is concerned, I was never the best student. I did fine. I did okay. But I certainly could have done better. And part of it was just, I only wanted to work hard at things that were interesting to me. Well, guess what? Summer school is not going to be interesting. Perfect example. We did a term paper. We had to do a paper on the book, The Scarlet Letter. I hated that book. Couldn't force myself to read it. And this was in the dawn of the internet. Found a paper on the internet, read the paper, didn't copy it word for word, but stole some of the ideas from it for sure. And then added my own thoughts to it. Turns out I was not the only one. Teacher gets all the papers, grades them, next day in class, stands up in front of the class and says, hey, I can tell that a lot of you cheated on this paper. So I'm going to give you until the end of the next day to admit it. I'm not going to promise you anything. I'm not going to promise you I'll be lenient. I'm just going to give you a day to do the right thing. That's it. Class is dismissed. I hang around at the end, wait, go up and talk to him once everybody's left. And I'm like, look, I'm guessing I'm one of the people you're talking about. I did go find a paper on the internet. I hated the book, couldn't make myself read the whole thing. I put my own thoughts in it, but I did take some stuff out of this paper that I found on the internet. And he's like, you know what? I wasn't sure about you, but I appreciate you saying that. You're still going to get an F on this paper, and you may not pass the class if you don't work really hard for the rest of the term. Bam, that's devastating, right? It's a pretty big hit. Next thing I need to do, if that wasn't hard enough, I knew I needed to go home and tell my parents what happened. And I was way more scared of what they were going to say than what my teacher was going to say. I was raised in a different era than you guys, that's for sure. And timeouts were the least of my worries, I'll put it that way. So I went home right away, fessed up to my mom, and I was blown away by her response. I thought Armageddon was coming. And she asked me what the teacher said, what the consequence was for it at school, and that was it. I don't even think I got grounded. She's like, I'm proud of you I'm not happy that you cheated, but I'm proud that you owned it, and you get to deal with the consequences now. So that's enough of a punishment. You better find a way to pass this class. And I did. I worked really hard. I think I got A's on the rest of my stuff, but still got like a C or a D in the class. Enough to pass it, but really hurt my grade point average. But the point is, I didn't just wallow in self-pity. I mean, I put myself in that situation, and I knew I had to dig myself back out, and I did. But what these lessons began to teach me over time is, like, you aren't the product of one bad moment. You can bounce back from things if you put your mind to it. You're going to screw up sometimes in life. You're going to make dumb decisions sometimes in life that you know you shouldn't have done. That doesn't make you a terrible person. It means you are human and you did something wrong, and you do need to atone for that. You need to make up for it. But you can. It's possible to do that. So don't let one failure create other failures, right? Don't decide you're a failure because you failed once. Everybody fails. Think of it as your first attempt. Make another one. Get it right the second time. If you don't get it right the second time, get it right the third time. Like, as long as you're breathing, you have air in your lungs, you have the power to make things change. So that's a quality I hope you guys develop. I hope you understand it, and why it's so crucial. I mean, that things have happened in my jobs too, like bad moments where I was dumb or did something stupid or said something I shouldn't have said. But when you build up a body of work of being a quality person, most of the time, people will let you make some mistakes as long as they're not too big, and they'll let you bounce back from them. But you have to make the effort. You've got to show and reward people for giving you another shot. That's the biggest thing. And this ties into, like, saying sorry isn't enough. Like, it's one thing to say you're sorry and think you really mean it, but you've got to show people that you mean it too. It's not enough to just say it, especially if you're going to keep on doing the thing you're apologizing for. So anyway, enough rambling. Hopefully this has been of value. See you next time.